You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends,
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And Shannon G. and Mesa AZ.
And we are excited to have you here on the podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and definitely share it for us. That helps our channel grow. We are very, very excited to have Larry Cyphers with us from 5280 RC out in Denver. Larry, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. It was a nice invite, and happy to hop on here and talk about what we're doing here at up in Denver. So
well, that's very, very nice of you to take your time with us. Just a quick intro: the fact that how Larry and I got kind of hooked up is Scott, who we've had on the podcast, Scott Berryman. He was purchasing an airplane, and I think he connected with Larry because Larry had one for sale. And in the course of all that, he mentioned us and then said, hey, I think you'd really like to get up with Larry. He's got some really cool products on his website. So we are excited about that. So Larry, why don't you kind of kick it off, introduce yourself, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm located just south of Denver in Centennial, and started flying during COVID, like a lot of other people, right? And then my brother-in-law and we started getting into EDF jets, and he was talking, this is back in the winter of 21, and he was like, hey, I'm looking at these afterburners, and I was like, you want to do what? He's like, no, it's like a light, and it goes in the back of the motor. And I was like, okay. And we started looking, and there were some designs out there, and the lead times were really long, and the websites weren't super user friendly. And he was kind of frustrated. And I was like, well, let me just see if I can build one. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and have a mechanical engineering degree with a concentration in robotics, and
Wow.
Programming microcontrollers and all this kind of stuff. I was like, okay, this is an easy pot, right? So put one together, and there was this guy at the field, Mike, who has a channel called Deuces Wild RC, and I gave one to Mike too, because I bought a bunch of parts, right, to build them, and I had enough to build 5, I think, and I had also acquired a 3D printer during COVID, and I was like, oh, this is a cool marriage, right? So 3D printed a little amount and made it up, and gave one to Mike, and Mike was like, man, this is really good. I was like, and he's like, you should start a business. And I was like, you know what? That's always been on my list, right? Is have something that's mine, start
Sure.
a business, right? Everybody's dream, right?
Right.
And, 3+ years later, and thousands of units, worldwide, and we just keep improving on the products, and 6 3D printers now, right? And
Wow.
my son's helping me build. I pay him kind of a summer job, and getting it really efficient as far as running the business and making it a good product for customers. And it's just been a ton of fun, and so really, really proud of the products that we have, and people really enjoy using them, and it's a neat experience, right? You take a plane that you really enjoy flying, and now you can add something a little bit extra to it, right? And we've got a couple of different versions. We've got kind of entry level product, and then a middle, and then the best, right? Give people options, and try to make it as easy as possible. People go to the website and they're like, I have this plane, I have this E-flite, FMS, Freewing, Arrows, those are kind of the more popular ones. I have this plane, click on it. Okay, tell us a little bit about, maybe the motor, version 1, version 2, right? You put those details in there, and then from a drop down menu, you're like, okay, this is the unit I want, and place the order, and you're on your way, right? So, and just kind of due to demand and lead time, it takes about 2 weeks ish to get them out, but we try to run with inside of 2 weeks, right? Get them out the door. So
That is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, how you said you started flying during COVID, but how did you? I mean, was it something you just decided, hey, I want to go fly RC, or were you doing it as a kid before, or how'd you get into this hobby?
Yeah, growing up in the 80s and reading RC Control magazine, right? I was enamored with stadium trucks and RC car racing and all that. And then did that for a number of years. And then kids, family, life.
Sure, life gets in the way.
Pause. And, can spend all the time at the track and whatnot. And then, so anything remote control, it's fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the airplanes were always on there, but I was just really nervous about, man, you crash an RC car, you break a $5, A-arm or a link or something, right?
Sure.
You crash an airplane, ooh, what's involved in this, right? And
a bag of dust.
As every yeah, exactly. Right. Popcorn, yeah. And as every good RC pilot knows, man, that first plane that you crashed, like you're just all the emotion, right? And then the 15th plane that you crash, you're like, whatever,
Right.
So
yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah, but definitely got up to like the planes that really wanted to fly, like P-38s and big P-47s, right? And so I've done those and all the jets and that kind of stuff. And in our local field, we kind of had an outlaw field, I would call it here. And that's how I met, because I was selling off some of my bigger planes where I'm like, man, driving an hour to the legit field,
right?
Family and commitments. I'm like, probably not going to be able to do that. I'm probably going to end up flying a lot of UMXs, right? It's kind of where my jam is right now.
Sure.
But still having fun, like, my favorite plane right now is like the E-flite Erratics. Like that thing is just awesome, right? You can flip that thing around in a park and have it hover and all that. So, yeah.
That's very, very cool. Yeah, we call those pirate fields. You're kind of pirating out there. You do it at the school or, down at the local, hobby store parking lot, wherever that might be. It's pretty funny.
This field was amazing. I mean, it's called David Lawrence, several acres of AstroTurf on top of the hill. And so we had our regular crew, Sundays we kind of all get together, our little club, and it could be up to maybe 10 guys. And, we get out there and it was one man at a time, because it's 3-4 minutes, right? Big deal. And, but you could take off always into the wind. Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it's on top of a dump, and the city owns it, and they're going to lease it to RV storage now. Yep.
It's kind of a bummer.
A little bit of a bummer. But flying jets on AstroTurf is awesome, because you just bring it in and, man, they slow right down, right? I mean, it's great. So.
Yeah, Jay flies his off of grass. They do the same thing. His slows way down really fast.
Yeah,
but
it's sometimes
hard on the landing gear
too. So
that's true. That's true. Jay lives in Texas, so the grass is more clumpiness than anything than AstroTurf. But that's pretty funny. Well, Shannon, I think has something he wants to tell you.
Yeah. So Larry, we've actually emailed a couple times, because you've been a big sponsor the last couple of years of the Arizona Electric Festival. So I really want to thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's how we all got together here. Is these guys came in and they were doing a show, and not even telling me about it the first couple of years. It was kind of like clandestine, and then I'm like, guys, I want to talk about my event, and we've been buddies ever since.
Sure.
So,
nice.
But you sent out some of your afterburners, and the guys really have loved them. And we got in, and again, I hope we're having an EF again, so hopefully maybe you can come down this time.
You have to come on down.
You get a chance. It's in February, and we'd love to have you come down here, because it's a great event. If I didn't send enough pictures or you didn't see enough coverage online, let me know. But it's for the electric guy, like all we are, we just like having fun and flying. It's still one of the best events, and we'd love to have you come down and be a part of that too.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. In fact, my folks live in Mesa. They're off Rucker Road over there.
Sounds like it's meant to be.
That's it. I was going to say the field that we go to is in Mesa, so that's half the battle.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, very cool.
Brown and
Very
Meridian,
cool.
so not that far away
Yeah.
from where your parents live.
Okay.
It's the Superstition
Awesome.
Air Park. If you have Real Flight or any of that stuff, you can actually fly at that particular
Okay.
field on Real Flight. So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
And,
All right.
you know, it's funny because I think I have one of your actual afterburners because I think I won it at the at the AZ Electric
Yes,
Festival.
you did.
I
Yeah.
did. I remembered it
Yeah.
after I saw it online because Scott asked me when he called me. I guess you guys were standing there, but he asked me. He's like, "Hey, do you use the afterburners?" And I was like, "No, most of the stuff I fly right now is turbines. So I mean, that goes inside the EDF." I was like, "No, I don't use any EDF type airplanes that have afterburners."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, well, you know, Larry's got these." And so I looked them up, and then I was like, "Wait a second, I do have one of those." And I think it's sitting on my
Yeah.
shelf right back here. It's in a box still because I don't have anything that I fly with an afterburner. So I didn't really want to
Gotcha.
put something in there that, you know, wasn't really. I'm a very big scale guy, so it's got to be a little more scale. So
Yeah.
I have an L39 that it would fit in perfectly, but the L39s don't
Yeah.
have afterburners, and I always think it looks kind of goofy if you have an airplane that does something different than what the real one does. And that's just my, you know, being a pilot, I'm kind of one of those guys that sticks to the blueprint of what actually is going on. So
Yeah, it's so funny, right? Because I call you guys the scale police.
the scale
right?
police.
So yeah, the scale police, right? And I, you know, years ago, I had a buddy at the field who had an A10, right, an E-Flight A10, and he's like, "Hey, do you think you could put an afterburner in that?" And I was like, "Well, you know, the A10
Technically,
didn't
yes.
have
Yeah,
that, right?"
sure.
He's like, "Yeah, I don't care," right? And so the scale police don't pay for my plane. I'm like, "Cool, let's do it," right? And so
Police.
we designed one up and
Whatever,
put it in,
whatever.
and I sell quite a few
Really?
of those, right? The A10,
That's fun.
yeah,
That's
for an A10,
That is
you
funny.
know.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of one of those things. It's been my regular job dealt so much. We were impacted so much with supply chain after COVID and all that, and I was just chief apology officer, right, in my regular
Right.
job, and it was like just, you know, I like pleasing people, right? I'm in sales, and not being able to do that was really frustrating. And this business was like, you know, it started to get, you know, some runway and take off, but it was like a mental health type thing, because as bad as my regular job was, I could, you know, leave my basement, go into my lab, and put together an order.
Right.
And the best sound was the tape going on the
Right.
box and like a label. And I'm like, you know what? That's going to make somebody pretty excited, right? And so that was really cool. And you know, just customer service too. Like people have a problem, I'm like, all right, no worries. Like I'll send you, you know, a replacement unit,
Right.
right? Stuff happens, you know. And if you do it 8 times, I may ask like, maybe we should get on the phone and figure out your setup, right? So
Hey, burning out my
but-
LEDs.
yeah, exactly. But you know, it's just been it's been really enjoyable, and you connect with a lot of, you know, interesting people like you.
Yeah,
guys.
well, we
So-
thank you very much. Well, I'm
I was going to say,
kinda-
the nice part is there's not many layers between you and your customers, right?
that's true.
I mean, some of the
Yeah.
companies, you know, we've dealt with in the past, I mean, you're just lucky to get the right guy that can get you an interview or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, this took all of like less than a week, and loosey goosey from a guy knowing a guy to the next guy,
Yeah.
couple phone calls, and it was done. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
easiest ever. I like this.
Yeah. I wish everything could be like that.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt,
You know,
yeah.
you're like,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been pretty lucky in our we've been doing this 9 years now, and we've been pretty lucky. We've had a lot of guests on the show, and you know, some are, you know, bigger companies. The CEOs are the guys up at the very top, and they were a little bit tougher to get. You know, they're just not. But it's good when we have. I mean, you consider this a small business, right? You're not a Horizon Hobbies kind of
100%,
thing. So
yeah, no, we're not in the you know, and for a split second I was like, man, I had a really good month.
Yeah.
Right, this was maybe about a year ago, and I was like, wow, all right, here's the dream.
Right.
And then the reality sets in. You're like, healthcare, I gotta do this every day, right? Like,
Then it wouldn't be fun.
yeah,
exactly. And I've talked to quite a few people who their hobby became their business, and they want nothing to do with the hobby anymore.
yeah. I
Right.
actually
And
did
so-
that.
Right.
That was actually 2 businesses for me that worked. So
Okay.
it got big, and then it got to the point where
You did the motocross stuff?
what's
or-
that?
I said, was that
Yeah,
the motocross stuff?
motocross and the graphic stuff too. So it just got to the point where.
Oh, yeah, graphics. Yeah.
But okay, so I'm a little interested in this in kind of a little bit more technical side, and if you can't go into it, I totally understand. There's
Yeah.
probably some NDAs out there, but how do you come up with the actual LED size for? I mean, how did that actually occur? You know, because I mean, like I can screw an LED bulb; it's got a little, diode or something in there, and it works kind of like an LED. But I've seen yours are long, and they have a lot of them, and you can get them different colors and brightness. And
Yeah.
I'm just interested in how you went through this development to get something from a diode to this nice bulbous, screws into the back of it.
Yeah. You know, any good solution is usually the simplest. So you just start looking at automobiles, right?
Sure.
And what do they use? And so it's a turn signal
Really?
LED, right? Yeah, readily available, not hard
Yeah.
to source, right? The special sauce is
Right.
in the controller and being able to take your throttle signal and then, get that to affect the LED, right? So, and there's some programming in there that we had to do and lessons learned and all that kind of stuff. So that's
Right.
really the IP, right? The parts and pieces are pretty straightforward, and that's how I can keep the price down too, right? I've got a couple of designs I'm working on for 64 millimeter jets. I love 64 millimeter jets because
Right.
they are low stress, right? You take
Yeah.
the gear off them, you can throw them, you bring them in, you float them, and you just land them on the grass, and you're like, rip a couple of
Yeah.
packs, and you're like, man, that was great, right? So as opposed to imagine flying a turbine jet, I've heard it described as holding your head underwater for 5
It can
minutes,
be,
right?
yeah.
The first flight.
It depends on who it is, but yeah, I can see how that would work. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
just high stress, right? Here's my hobby stressing me out. So, and even then, like, anytime I'm looking at a new design, I'm always trying to find what's the most readily available part that I can get from suppliers that is
Right.
a low price point, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to have a great design for a 64 millimeter plane that, the plane costs $150 and I got $100 afterburner in it, right? That
I
doesn't
don't know. You
make
haven't been to my
sense.
shop.
So- Well, okay.
I've got a $200 airplane with a
Yeah.
$400 gyro in it. So yeah, I know exactly
Oh,
how that
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
works.
Okay.
But no, it's just I'm
Yep.
I'm bad about it. If I find something that I really like, I kind of stick with it because it settings are the same, and I kind of get used to how it flies. And I'm a big Demon Cortex guy, so I've got a Demon in almost every one of my airplanes. And everybody's like, this little unit
Yeah.
is more than the actual plane, right? This is a foam plane, and you've got a turbine jet, processor in it. And I was like, yeah, but I like the way it flies, so it makes my life easier.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so 50 to 80 RC. Obviously, you're in Denver, and that's a mile. So,
Yeah.
how'd you come about that?
I was just sitting there. I was at the field and talking with my buddy Mike, and I was like, I'm like we're at 5,280 feet above sea level.
Sure.
Everybody knows that as Denver, right? And I was like 5280 RC and did a quick Google search, and I was like, okay, signed up the LLC, got the website going. I was like, all right, and I got my first order, and then I was like, oh man, okay,
Right.
like here we go, and yeah, and then it's so funny, like it's the little things, like just figuring out the right size boxes and like
Right.
how to package this stuff, and how to deal with multiple orders, or multiple products in the same order and that kind of stuff, and international shipping, and just dealing with that. So yeah, it's been fun. I think we're through a lot of the major learning curves now, to the point where I've got like my son helping me build stuff. I got a buddy that helps me put them together as well. So that way I can just kind of keep my stress level down and the time that I'm working on it, like low too, right? Because I only have so much time available to do this as well.
We're all kind of in that same boat.
No, yeah, exactly. Right. And you don't want it to be, it's fun. The money, that you make from it, it's kind of mad money, right? Buy a bunch of planes and then you sell them on Facebook Marketplace when your field closes and meet a lot.
So when are you going to be official Afterburner light for the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know. All that stuff, they would probably charge money, right? But that's kind of what they want, So, yeah. Yeah.
So, Larry, where's the most obscure place that you've sent one of your lights? For us, like on our podcast, we had someplace in, someplace in Africa, in the jungle, like
somewhere in like the Congo or somewhere.
And we're like, we have some listener there. Yeah. Who's listening to us, and we're like, we're like, wow, how this guy find us and listens to us regularly, and the analytics were crazy, but that one just kind of took us because we're just like, whoa, some dude probably has a wire, ran it up the side of the mountain, dangling it off to,
I know, it was pretty surprising
to hear us and to do our stuff, and so I'm just wondering, like, where was some there that you had to look up and go, where's this country or where's this place?
There was a guy on a small island in the UK, right? And why do I know that? Because he had an issue with the post office, right? And you're trying to chase it down for him, right? Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Hong Kong, like not anything in Russia, but a lot of Eastern Bloc countries around there, right? I mean, I should take all that data and throw it into a mapping program and just see where it all sits. Right?
That's kind of what our analytics do. That's how we know our show kind of goes all over the world. And actually, France just moved up to the number 2 spot over Canada. So we have some people that, evidently some new listeners in France that bumped it up a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of cool to watch, monthly with the, where the downloads happen and that kind of thing and who's listening. But we're excited to have it. Now, are there other products other than Afterburners, or do you plan on doing anything other than those?
It's you find your niche and you kind of exploit your niche, right? And so, we've really kind of slotted in on the Afterburners, and we always dabble out a little bit, but it's always still on the plane side. We make an RC whistle, kind of like a copy of the Nerf whistles, right? So we have those, anything that I can use my existing investment, right? So I've got 3D printers. I'm like, all right, let's keep them running. We do make plane hangers. We've kind of goofed around with some stuff for Corsairs, like radial engines and that kind of stuff. But for now, I mean, we're kind of happy where we're at, right? Because it's back into this sweet spot as far as time. Right, and low stress and just having fun because it's supposed to be fun, right? And I've got a real job where if I need stress, right? So
now, are they they're FDM printers?
Bed slingers, basically. Like Creality type. So
we're familiar. We're actually friends with Eric with 3D Aero Ventures. He's the one that 3D prints the airplanes and flies. He's got a couple of the designs out there. And we've flown some 3D. Matter of fact, I just printed one out. I crashed mine that Eric had given him at the Arizona Electric Festival, and we kind of printed some out. I'll tell you, though, what's really easy to print and you probably could put out there is an ECU holder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for most of the turbine guys, there's a little ECU that runs the turbine, and everybody tries to figure out where to stick that. And it's just a little, I just need it to clip in there, but it's very simple. If you kind of dig around, I'm sure you'll probably find one. Somebody's probably got one out there, but with as many turbine guys and the turbine world has come down, where you used to have to, Jay and I used to make fun of all these guys that had, 30 or 40 grand into a turbine, and now it's come down where it's, a foam. It's
now R1.
Yeah, I know. He always busting my chops, like, we'll never own one of those. And then, of course, I got duped into flying one, and that was all it took. So people know my personality, they just have to dangle a carrot in my face, and I'm usually like a rabid dog. Just jump on there. Now I own like 5 of them, so it's just crazy. Yeah. But I got more airplanes. You probably can see the back of the shop. I got more airplanes than I know what to do with. They're everywhere. They're all over the place.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know. They multiply. Yeah. They're like gremlins.
Yeah, that's right. They're next door in the garage, and I just got a new one in the mail just day before yesterday. We're gonna have to do a podcast on that, but. Yeah, I had a birthday just recently, and
that's right.
Yeah, you did.
I sent that to you.
And actually, if I put an EDF in that one, that would look pretty cool with a afterburner in it. This airplane he got me is supposed to do 300 miles an hour. I don't know if it really will, but it's foam. So, but we'll see. And it's got a pretty rad motor on the back of it, so we'll have to see if it actually does it. He sent me the video of the guy, and he did a 600 kilometers an hour is what he said it was doing, and that's like 333 miles an hour, which I don't really. He did it with a Doppler flyby, and I think that's a little off. But I'm thinking the size of this thing and the weight of this thing, I can't imagine it doing 300 miles an hour. But
I had a V900, right? Because you as you get as a better pilot, you're like, oh, okay, let's see, and then flexing a little bit because you got other guys that like, all right, who's got the fast one, right? And that V900, it's awesome, but man, I could only just rip it across the field and take it straight up and turn it, right? Because you're just like, all right, and then after a while, you're like, and you're so amped up after flying that thing, you're just like. All right, man. I gotta chill out for a little while. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
next,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead of me. That's funny. That is great.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jay got me into flying some wings way back in the day, and those things are well over 3 digits. So we went and chased each other one time, and I ran next to a cell tower and hit the ground doing well over 108 miles an hour. So. Surprisingly enough, it shattered every carbon spar that I had in that airplane, but didn't do it. Yeah, just powdered. I just poured it out but it didn't hurt the foam at all. It kind of smashed the nose a little bit, but it just bounced, and then I just dumped all the carbon fiber, put new rods in it, and went back up in the air. Yeah, it was crazy.
No way.
But it hit the ground so perfectly flat. It just made this crumple noise, and it was just like that did not sound good. And we went over there and just kind of picked it up, and it flopped. And I'm like, "Ooh, that ain't good." So we're like, "Oh, did it break the carbon rod in it?" And it's just
dumped it out.
It's just stuff just poured out. We're like,
shattered.
Oh man, we can't put a little CA in that and just call it.
No,
good.
But it's still flying today. Actually, Jay flew it just in February, I think. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yep,
that's wild.
He's tried.
And you didn't want to get away.
He's tried to destroy it several times. We use them as combat wings, actually, believe it or not. We try and hit each other. It's pretty fun. Yeah. It's a lot harder than people think.
Yeah, is it a rear prop setup?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, man, those things, gosh. You got to know what you're doing watching one of those.
If you hold it by the nose and just throw it over your head, you're fine. So I know a lot of guys take it and they try to launch it forward with the prop going over their head or whatever, but we just stand there and put your hand right on the nose of it and then just fling it up past you, and the thing flies great. Yeah, you don't ever come close to the prop.
Wow.
So, no.
Really? That's awesome.
Yep. It's just a weird. It's a weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird throw that most people aren't used to doing, but because the weight to ratio power level, it's easy to accomplish because you can pretty much almost take the wings that we fly up off the ground, right on the winglets and take straight off, take right off the ground. Okay. Except the P torque kind of gets you.
I've done it.
Other than that, they're pretty easy to. I mean, after you do the launch once or twice, you're like, oh, this is easy, just to toss it.
Yeah, it's kind of a floater, but
without having to miss a digit or so, that type of thing. So
that's the thing. There was a guy at our field. He was launching a plane for a buddy, and it was a rear, a pusher. Holy cow, man! That thing ripped through his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, just like butter, and to the bone. And so we're all taping them up, and we're just like, oh my god.
That's it's funny. My doctor's appointment, I was talking to them, and they had some Blenderm there, and I was trying to get it from them, And he's like, why do you need Blenderm? And I was like, oh man, I use it for my RC airplanes. That's like the best stuff ever. This high grade Blenderm. And he started laughing. He's like, well, you can get this online. I was like, I know, I have a whole case of it at home. Everybody, Jay can testify. I think I've got Blenderm in pretty much every room and in every little box that I have, because I'm always either cutting myself or slicing myself open. And I just put that tape on there, so I know all about that. But it's pretty funny.
There you go.
Yeah, we could probably have another podcast just talking about using RC tools to do surgery. What? Oh my gosh, that cuts too deep. Give me
my wife hates it. She hates it.
All right.
She's like, why do you put glue on yourself? I go, that's what they do at the doctor. CA the cut. Jay and I were at the field. I just CA'd it shut. And he's like, okay, good. Put a little Blenderm on it. Good to go.
There you go. That's what it was invented for too, though, right? I mean, that super glue was.
That's it. That's what it was for.
Yeah.
Triage. Right? Out in the field. Yeah. Just glue the guy shut. Put him back in action.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
The kicker stings.
You don't have to use the kicker. It'll go on its own. Trust me. Just kind of blow on it. That moisture in the air will cause it to kind of bind. So. Well, listen, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We do appreciate you choosing us. Tell us how to get to tell our listeners how to order your product.
Oh, they're
get their unit. Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on the show. I just set up a special discount for all your users and viewers. It's Park Flyer 2024. And so they'll get 10% off the entire order, one-time use per customer, for the next 30 days. So we can say thanks.
Thank you very much
to you guys for having us on. And the website is 5280RC. That's spelled out. To be honest with you, if you type in 5280 Afterburner, it will pop up. Right, we're in all the Google search engine stuff, I pay for the ads and do all that, and we.
All right, 5280 RC, and that's all spelled out. And then, how do they reach you? It can be info, right? That's where you told me.
Yeah. So on our website, there's a contact us section there down at the bottom, where you can just send us an email, info@5280RC, spelled out FIFTY 8IGHTY.
Forgot the 2.
50. No, I missed a 2. I forgot it. Yeah. I wanted 5280.com. I couldn't get it, so I had to spell it all out. So 5280.
All right, not a problem. We'll put a link in our description so that they can just click on there and go.
Thank you.
Awesome. It's so great to have you on the show. We do appreciate your time. But our time is up. So from here in Arizona, I'm Michael.
And I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
Thanks, guys.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.